Hi, my name is Adriana, and today I will be doing a book review of Burn by Patrick Ness. Okay, before we get started, if you are my dad or my sister, maybe just stop watching this video because I think both of you would really enjoy this book. So stop watching, read it, and then come back and watch it. For everyone else, I would also suggest this book, and if you don't mind knowing a bit about your books going in, continue to feel free watching. I will be making this a non-spoiler review, so I won't spoil any major plot points or anything, but I did really enjoy this dragon fantasy novel. If you think it's something you might be interested in as well, keep watching. I will start with a short synopsis. This book focuses on a young woman named Sarah Dewhurst who lives on a farm in a small town in western Washington. Her father is forced to use cheap dragon labor in order to save their farm and their livelihood, and this dragon, Casimir, has accepted the job with a ulterior motive, as this farm and this young woman, Sarah, are the key to an ancient dragon prophecy. I would normally jump from synopsis straight into characters because I am typically very interested in talking about characters, but before I jump into them, I actually want to start on themes, and in particular one major theme that I kind of caught up on throughout this book. I don't know if this fits better into like theme or like tropes, but this book I think does a really good job of using and subverting the Chosen One story. It's kind of almost an anti-Chosen One story. The antagonists of the plot actually fit the Chosen One theme pretty by the book, and our main character, the protagonist, Sarah, is actually specifically characterized as a normal or not special person. And I think the way this turns into a theme is that the act of just existing as yourself, as a normal person, human, is an ultimate triumph. So I think that is a good segue into our characters, starting with Sarah, our quote-unquote normal girl. She is biracial, black and white, and I think the characterization of her as biracial fits the theme really well, as just existing in this 1950s rural town. She is almost a political comment upon herself, and I will talk about that a little bit more in the setting and atmosphere section, because this book does use its setting and time setting in a very meaningful way. There's not much more to be said about Sarah. I mean, she's strong, but not in a way that is out of this world. She is just a very normal person with some good and some bad qualities. She's strong, but she's stubborn, and she's just feels like a very real, normal person that you would meet, and I think she services this story and this plot extremely well. The next character I want to talk about is Casimir, our scholarly dragon. So his species of dragon is known as a Russian blue, which also causes some tension within this 1950s rural American town. He is a very fun character to have, especially as a foil to our seemingly normal protagonist. We have this out of this world dragon who is very straightforward, but also can say things that make you think he's being snippy or sarcastic, and you never quite really know if there's actual venom behind those words. And then the final character I will be discussing is Malcolm. He is what I really think of as a typical Chosen One sort of tropey character. He is the antagonist in this story. He grows up in this cult of dragon worshippers and is trained from a very young age to help fulfill this prophecy. It's very much step-by-step ABC, a Chosen One narrative on his side, but it's really cool to see the flip side of having your Chosen One actually be the antagonist or villain of the story and how that affects the overall themes and plot of the story. There's also a bunch of other characters who I think service the story really well. I don't want to get too spoilery in this video, but just some quick name drops and like cool things about that character. Sarah's boyfriend person. Jason is a Japanese boy whose mother actually died in an internment camp during World War II. I think that's a really important and interesting detail to bring into a story set in this time and place, as well as the FBI agent Devinich? Ooh, what is his name? Durnovich. Agent Durnovich is a really interesting character as well. We get to see a couple different sides to him and facets throughout the story, and he's more than just your prototypical FBI cop guy. So I thought that was really cool as well. So now I would like to jump into setting and atmosphere. This story takes place in 1957 in a small town in Western Washington that definitely has, a very rural Washington vibe. Growing up in rural Washington, I can really relate to that, though obviously I was not alive in the 50s. But like I said, this time frame and this area of the country really does a lot to build up this story. So in this story, we have dragons and we have humans, and they had been fighting for millennia, and they are now in this tenuous sort of peace. So that gets paralleled a lot with the Cold War, the Western world versus the USSR. So paralleling that makes it feel a lot more real and fleshed out, and something that would make a lot of sense for an Earth that has dragons on it, and how that would all play out. And what really solidified this tenuous peace between human and dragon was the invention of the atomic bomb, and this mutually assured destruction of, if dragons start trying to erase the humans will be sure to erase the dragons with this new weapon of mass destruction. I am also a huge sucker for anything set in the Northwest because it is my home and I love it a lot. So being able to be so in touch with the geography of this story, the character I mentioned, Malcolm, travels from a place in Canada that's not really specified but comes down through Montana and the Idaho Panhandle and through Washington. So that's all geography I'm very familiar with, and just made me feel so much more invested in the story as a whole. The overall atmosphere with this story taking place in mostly the winter time, I think also does a lot to give that kind of dark, dreary, Cold War-esque feeling. The Northwest is a very gray place in the winter, so having that double up with a kind of gray setting along with these very morally gray situation of something like a Cold War between humans and dragons, and this weird prophecy, and no one knows how to interpret it correctly. It just all feels very connected and cool, and I enjoyed that immensely. Finally, I would like to talk about plot, and I think another reason I enjoyed this book so much is that it's set up in a very similar way to a lot of my favorite mystery thrillers and action-adventure books. It is very, very slow in the first half, a lot of information gathering type activities, a lot of very intricate details, and a lot of separate stories taking place in like different parts of the country and the area. And then the second half is where everything comes together with tons of action and no thoughts, just pure action, blockbuster, craziness, fighting, just huge cinematic scenes, which I love. I love that way of setting up a story. And so this book definitely feels like it checks all of my boxes of stuff I love. So final thoughts. I definitely love this. I think this was a 5-star read for me, which I love being able to, sneak in another 5-star right at the end of the year like this. I don't think there is a single thing I would change about this book. I enjoyed it immensely. I will definitely be checking out more Patrick Ness. I thought that this was a dragon story that didn't feel, stale and overdone. I thought it was just incredible. I really have nothing else to say about this book besides incredible. So I would definitely recommend you go read this. If you have read it, please comment down below on what you thought about it. And thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.